What's up, Pats fans? We're back. Pat's Tailgate Party Podcast. Don't care what episode it is. It's not much of a party today on the podcast. We're coming off one of the – I'm glad we got a Monday Night Football game for the first time with fans since 2016. And, boy, were they treated to an event of some sort in Foxborough on Monday night. Michael Lake is here. I am Pat Sox Celts Brews on Boston Sports Journal. By the way, if you haven't gone to Boston Sports Journal, we say it every week. We'll keep saying it every week. BostonSportsJournal.com. Greg Bedard puts on the best product, in our opinion, that you can find with Patriots coverage, but not only Patriots coverage, your Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics coverage is the best out there. Get on there, subscribe, and get smarter. But we're back here to talk about what we saw Monday and what we hope to see moving forward, or what we think we're going to see. So I'll pass it to my right to another Boston Sports Journal member. Andrew, how are you today?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Good to be with you guys. Winter coats on Boston Sports Journal. I think I actually posted for the first time in like 3 months yesterday or day before. Man, we got a lot to talk about today. Glad we're together. I don't even know where to go from here.
No, you're good.
Back to you, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I posted on Monday night for the first time in a long time, and it involved two vulgarities, which was great. And then I posted it again because I was pissed off, but otherwise that's it. So we'll go underneath me and then we'll move to the right. Doug Lakis, another BSJ member. Dad,
hi guys. I am Coach Stradamus on BSJ, and second what Mike said about the coverage is unbelievable, and Bedard's been right on spot on again this week. To the dismay of a lot of viewers, for sure. But I look forward to getting into some of this today.
All right, good. And then last, but certainly not least, Mike Davis to your right, Doug Lakis. Mike, how are you? Another BSJ member. How are you?
Hey, it's Mike Davis. I am call sign, I guess, Mike and Stoneman. And actually, I think I'm probably not as down on the team today as some of the other folks around. And I think there was a lot that needed improvement, and I'm kind of hope there's some things that they can do to get better pretty soon. So that's how I'm doing today.
All right. Well, we have somebody that's going to lift us up. It's good. You got to have contrasting opinions on a podcast. I don't know. Maybe the younger.
In the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Oh man, that's funny. That's a good point. So let's just take a look back. We'll roll through the stats here and what actually happened objectively, and then we'll get into how we felt. So Bears on the road in Foxborough win 33-14 on Monday night. I think if you guys know, we have a group chat. I had to listen to a lot of it on the radio, which is great. It saved my eyes from what seemed to be happening on the field. I watched the second half, though, live, where it really started to get bad. So I did have to endure that. But, I got to tell you, I think the first takeaway for me when I think about that game and I look at that game is just everybody talks about all everybody's talking about right now is the quarterback. And I get it. That's it's the premier position and Jones and all that. I think that's a red herring for what we actually saw, which was just dog crap defense and not a prepared football team all around. And that was my takeaway, is I was just shocked, I think. And Dad, I know you'll talk about this. I won't steal too much of your thunder, but just shocked at what I saw. I was not. I bet the game. I bet the line down. It was -8.5. I took it to -5.5. I sent Robert Kraft a tweet on Tuesday and asked him for a refund. He hadn't gotten back to me yet, in case anybody was wondering. But I'll just kick it out there. That to me was just irritated, pissed off as a fan, and just shocked at what I saw.
Coach, he just called you out. Let's hear what you can say.
I said it earlier. I kind of sat there and not anger, but disbelief as to the lack of preparedness and seemingly interest. I don't know. They just seem to be uninterested. And then Bedard talked about it on his podcast with Fagler and Maz when he talked about they were doing their own thing. Guys on defense doing their own thing, not following a scheme. It seemingly not much of a scheme there. And to me, it was an easy week to prepare because you go back and look at the film from Lamar Jackson, you see some of the same things, not Lamar, but, Fields does the same type of thing. And it was kind of like, well, we've never seen a running quarterback before. I don't know. I know Mike Davis, you're not as down on him. That bothered me. Defensively to me was just a dumpster fire on Monday night. I don't get it.
So let's talk about how they were able to somewhat control Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's not like they didn't give the guy 4 touchdowns or whatever, but they made it a game with Lamar, right? So what they did was they made it a safeties game, right? They had all 4 safeties actively involved. And actually, I think it was 5 when you think Bledsoe. So Bledsoe's out. Duggar got knocked out early. Phillips is still, a shadow of himself. It's a Halloween week, so let's use a lot of these ghost and Halloween references. But, when you're down 3 of those guys, McCourty's a deep safety, and you can't play that way. And I think that they've lost enough linebackers as well that they can't play the way they wanted to play going into that game. They don't have the speed on linebacker anymore that they thought they were going to have. And so now, again, why you go sign the ghost to Jamie Collins instead of claiming a fast safety or linebacker off of somebody else's practice squad like San Francisco's? I don't know. Maybe they think they can't get him ready, but that is a thing where I think that if you don't have those guys ready and that's part of your game plan and that's how you succeeded, that's how you're going to fail. And so that's, I guess, one of the things I saw is that they didn't have the horses.
Andrew?
I don't even know what to say. I
you got to say something because this is an audio medium.
I almost pulled a Patriots today and just didn't show up.
I wish I had my sound effects. Where are they?
No, I mean, Mike, I hear you, and I do think injuries probably played a role, but I guess my hot take is this, and I think I've watched every Patriots game since like 1994. Like, I don't think I've missed a game. I think that might be the worst loss. It's at least I think it's the worst loss I've seen in the last 20 years. Like, there were some worse ones in the 90s. There were ones that stung more, like, Super
Buffalo
Bowl
31-0.
Super Bowl.
But even the Buffalo 31-0 was like the Laura Malloy game, it just
dude, that was a butt whooping.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember how we felt that Monday. That was that was rough.
Angry,
yeah, but you're coming off 2 Super Bowls, like literally.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing about Monday night. I wasn't mad while I was watching. I was kind of just floored to Dad's point. I was kind of shocked. I was speechless. I was just like, what am I watching? The more I've thought about it since, it's just the compounding effect of ineptitude that is driving me crazy. Like, there was, I'm going to tell you right now, and he won't admit it, but honestly, these days, who knows what Belichick's going to say to the media? Probably nothing. They looked over that team. They didn't do a damn bit of preparation the whole week. They did the Bush League college. We're going to play 2. No, they're not even looking at the Jets. They just thought they were going to beat the Bears. I mean, they smelled themselves. They did what a college football team does after winning 2 weeks in a row.
Yep.
Where they're like, if I show up on the field and win today, and they're not that good. To your point, Mike Davis, it's not just that the horses are injured. They don't have enough horses in the barn. Like, if you can't prep and scheme and execute, guys, you're not winning. Go ahead and get ready for a high draft pick. And then the quarterback thing and what they did to Mac. And then today, Bedard writing that, there's a chance that he's going to side with Patricia and Judge and trade Mac Jones.
He was all about that on
Get me. I will quit.
Podcast.
I will be done with this year, and it'll take them years to win me back. And I'm saying that right now. It'll be Belichick or me, because that is absolutely asinine. I don't understand.
You guys know
what's going on.
that as the game was going on, I was ripping. I was really fuming because I felt like they had put in 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers and Mac was in the shotgun. And what the heck were they doing? And as soon as Zappe came in, they went back to playing, under under center with multiple tight ends and extra protection. And I was like, okay, like what's going on here? So the more I've thought about it, the more I calmed down and the more I realized Mac probably sat down and said, hey, these are the 10 plays that I want to play. But because he's a rookie offensive coordinator, instead of saying, okay, how do we work those 10 plays into the first 30 or 40? He probably just said, all right, let's run those 10 plays, 1 through 10. And instead of saying, all right, you got to set this one up with that. No, all right, fine, Mac, these are the 10 you like. We're going to run them 1 through 10. Come out and play. And that, you know, number one, that does no good for your offensive line. They can't go in and run a lot of those that way. Number two, you know, it's a horrible way to set anybody up, and it just doesn't make anybody comfortable. And, you know, once he came out, it was like, all right, let's try this again. Let's try with where we would go if we were starting this game over. And so I think that's why Zappe had some initial success, and then everything caught up to them. So I'm not as fuming as I was, and I apologize for any profanity in our group chat, but I was mad. I was smoking.
Don't ever apologize for any profanity in the group.
No, that's okay.
You're good.
Bring your real self, Mike. Real self.
I mean, Bedard, I listened to it today, the podcast, and he basically said if he's gonna side with Judge and Patricia, then they need to go ahead and trade Jones at the trade deadline and get something for him. He said if that's what's going to happen, and he said it looks to him as though that's what's happening. Jones and Patricia and Judge have come forward and gotten in Belichick's ear and said, this guy's doing what we want him to do, Zappe.
I don't even have words for that.
I don't either.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I'm telling you right now, as someone who hasn't missed a game.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm with you.
I'm right there.
If that happens, I won't turn the TV on another time this year.
It's not going to happen, guys.
And I won't. But even if it happens in the off season, Mike, like the problem here is not whether it manifests in the trade. The problem is you got two coaches who don't know what they're doing, who both tore down franchises. Hey, yeah, Joe Judge really did a great job. It's taking Brian. He's taking Brian Daboll 7 weeks to win more games than Joe Judge won in 2.5, 3 years. Get Joe Judge out of here.
Terrible.
And Matt Patricia, he did the same thing in Detroit. Like, I got to prove I'm smarter than everybody. Darius Slay was really the problem.
Hold on a minute.
Like, Quadre Diggs were really the problem. They both seem to be doing pretty well right now. Like, get out of here.
By the way, with that in mind, Matt Patricia didn't even run a good defense when he was the coordinator in New England. They sucked ass when he was the defensive coordinator.
Ask Nick Foles and Doug Myrtle Beach Peterson about that defense.
There's something to be said about people that just aren't good coaches. And I'll just say it right now for the few out there listening or whatever, they're not good coaches. They suck. No. They both suck as coaches. They both need to get off the staff. They need to go do some low-level coaching job or go to college or do something else. They probably wouldn't even last in college. Well, they might, because they could try to outsmart kids that are kids. But in the NFL, you're talking about pro guys that are pro players and make millions of dollars that know what they're doing. They're top 1% players. And these guys suck. And the fact that my bigger problem with this whole thing, though, is that, let me say this too, Steve Belichick sucks too. And it's getting to the point where, and I'm this is probably, the plumbers in Southie probably get mad at me. I don't really give a crap. Belichick sucks too right now. He's not a good coach either. So I don't care what anybody says. It's not hot takey. I've watched them the last 3 years when Tom Brady wasn't on the team. Belichick's not a great coach either. He had a terrible record in Cleveland when Kosar left. They were okay. He got lucky and got Tom Brady, who was the greatest quarterback to ever play. And that's the coattails he's been riding. But he can't admit to that. And he's making these terrible decisions, bringing on these terrible coaches and terrible talent. They've had terrible drafts. It's all the same freaking narrative. It's just a matter of time before somebody just looks himself in the mirror and as a fan, and we realize that they're not all that great. And he wasn't all that great. Tom Brady was great, and he made everybody great. And that's the way that it works. And that's my opinion. Hot take or not, Belichick's not that good. He can suck at times as a coach also. There it is. So everybody gets some of that out there listening. He's not great. Don't care. I don't give a shit about his rings. I really don't care.
I think that Belichick and Brady work very well hand in hand, and I think they put that thing together.
Yeah, sure.
And usually when the partnership ends, something happens one way or another. my concern, and I was telling, I think I said this to Andrew yesterday, and again, I know the NFL is not from a human standpoint, but what they've done to Jones, to me, is embarrassing.
Yeah,
I mean, this kid, he has not done anything to deserve any of this. The fact that McDaniels left and this was their plan. Well, wait a minute. They've taken this kid's gone back 100 steps from where he came last year. I'm not saying he was a world beater last year, but he was heading in the right direction.
No, he was good, man. He was good last year.
I think they thought Billy O'Brien was coming. And I think Billy O'Brien said, you go talk to coach. I'm not leaving him. You're 70 and he's a lot younger. So you go ask him if you can bring me over there. And then when Saban was, he was like, okay, well, I'm not asking Saban. Then they were like, oh God, who the heck are we going to hire? Where are we going to go? We're going to go get a retread like Adam Gase or whatever. So they decided to take a run at this.
Yes. So Mike, can I talk on that?
No, I agree with you guys. That's what I would have done. I would have done an Adam Gase, or I would have done Nagy, or.
This is the point. This is my Belichick point. Great leaders and those that actually have a plan. And those, when the plan doesn't work, they have another plan. And if that plan doesn't work, they have another plan. They didn't have a plan. He didn't have a plan. And Dad, to your point, when you're talking about the partnership they had and how great they were, they sure did. And what happens in the human element of things is when something's going really well and then it splits and the other person sees success and the other person doesn't, they tend to overcompensate. And that's exactly what's happening here, where everybody's the smartest person in the room and he's going to do it his way. He's a curmudgeon, grumpy ass to the media as he's always been, but he thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And in reality, somebody needs to look at him. And it would be nice if old Bobby Kraft, instead of getting married to a 25-year-old woman on Friday, would step in and say, you suck, coach. And unless something changes, you're not going to be here anymore. But he won't do it. So, yeah, Jonathan hopefully can take over the team pretty soon. Because somebody needs to look Belichick in the face and tell him that he's screwing the whole thing up. And that's the reality of the situation.
Well, I think that, I hear where you're going with that. I challenge you on 2 points. I think Belichick's a brilliant coach and teacher, and still is today. I think it takes a different level of energy. I think it takes a different commitment to sustain success and be an organizational leader. And that's the thing I'm just most disappointed by is whether it was building young up and coming coaches and developing them into full-time coordinators, whether it's, figuring out a path so that you have a plan to when Brady is heading at, there's just so much that they have done that's where I think the rot is in this organization right now. I actually think the last 2 drafts have been pretty good. I'm excited about the young talent. If anything, that makes nights like Monday harder because I'm like, what lessons are they taking from that? These are young guys that are in a really formative part of their career. The talent's fine. That he still probably gets if I'm being honest, even now, there are players on that team that I think he gets more out of than he probably should based on talent level. I just think that I don't know who's running things. And I know it's convenient to say Kraft got married and this and that. He's a businessman. He can do things at once. But do they understand that they're becoming a laughing stock? That the brand is literally going through harm right now.
I don't think so.
That's where I just don't understand. I'm really truly as shocked as I was at what I was watching on Monday night. The days since, I'm as shocked at the level of rot that they have allowed to build up in this organization without anybody. Belichick says, blame me, it's my fault, we got to coach better. That's just talk now. Accountability would be make a change. And I just don't see any changes happening.
Well, so here's the interesting question, right? So how do you measure brand, right? It's in dollars. The question is, did they just sell 150,000 or 300,000 Zappy jerseys or something? So in the short term, they got a bump. You know what I mean? Where if you see their dollars going down, if their attendance is dropping, if merch is going down, if those indicators are dropping, that's where you're going to see the machine, which is the Kraft family, very quickly step up and say, our brand is suffering, right? That's measurable. Every brand. Mike, you're a brand manager, right? You stay very much on top of your brand. If you have brand drop in an area, I'm sure you jump right in there, you get on a plane and you go over there and you address it. So
I get
you're
it.
talking about millions of dollars.
Yeah, but Mike, the only thing I challenge you on, Mike Davis, or build off of, because I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I think brand is different than performance. Brand is, does the logo or does the organization mean the same thing time over time? I know what I'm getting with this thing. And for the Patriots, they've had honestly one of the best brands in sports for 20 years. We're getting hard work, the Patriot way, do your job, be incredibly resourceful and figure out, like, be cutting edge, honestly, was their brand. That brand is gone.
Yeah,
like none of those things happen anymore. None. We sit around as fans hoping that, like, oh, maybe today will be the day or the week will change. It's clear as day that, like, the brand is gone. Now, to your point, the performance has suffered on the field. The performance may start to happen in terms of sales, money, tickets. But I'm shocked that they've let the brand deteriorate.
Yeah,
like,
bad.
This is just, this is like, we're getting, yeah, I won't say that. I was about to say we're getting to Daniel Snyder level. And I'm like, no, nothing can be Daniel Snyder level. That. But it's it just is, it blows my mind. I don't know what's happening.
The brand.
Go ahead. So the performance affects the brand.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the brand.
Basically, right?
Yes. To some degree, yes.
Because my question would be, in order for something to change, someone has to care enough to change it. Well, who cares? They don't seem to care.
Exactly.
But so here's what I'm worried about. Like, this is a great question. I do think obviously brand and performance in the business world are tied together. Sure. Y'all would know more about that than me. But you also have to be really careful not to overemphasize performance when you're thinking about brand, because performance can ebb and flow. You can have short term, you can have lagging indicators.
That's right.
The best example of this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not always the best team. They don't always win, but the Rooneys rule with a steady hand, and they do things the right way, and they treat their players right, and they are just deeply proud of the Steelers way. And guess what? Steelers fans, while they might be mad about the product on the field or a 5-11 season, they are Steelers fans. It means something to be the Steelers. The Patriots are in jeopardy of throwing that away after the luckiest 2 decades a sports franchise has ever had. Like, that's where I'm just like, his handling of the quarterback thing and this weird, like, this coaching situation are huge brand threats,
So let's talk about what they can do to fix it, guys. Right. So if you guys were Jonathan Kraft, I mean, I would have gone in on Tuesday morning and I would have fired Cam Acord. I would have moved. I would have said to Joe Judge, you're over there. Go take over that role. There's an opening. Right. I would have said to Matt Patricia, we absolutely need that Ernie Adams role filled. It's critical. It's an important part of our brand. Get up there and go do that. And then I would have said, Brian Hoyer, you're calling plays for the next whatever. And I would have brought either, Ivan Fear back and or Scar back. Both of them have deep institutional knowledge. They know these players. They have a ton of success, and brought him in.
Mike,
I love you. Mike, you know what would have happened? You just named 11 steps.
You know what would have happened if you even started down that path? You know what would have happened? Your coach would have resigned. The minute that started, you can't just go in as an organizational leader and tell people that you've trusted to lead an organization at a lower level than you for 22 years, that you're going to take control. The minute that happens, Bill Belichick's gone. I know I went on a rant a second ago about he sucks, and that was just me venting and getting anger out and whatever. Apologize to Kraft. Congratulations on your wedding. The reality of the situation is you can't do that. You go in there and do that, he's out. Like, Belichick's like, okay, you want to take over the team? I'm not going to do it anymore. Appreciate it. Like, that doesn't work.
But the other thing I'd suggest here, and Mike Davis, I don't disagree. It's become untenable. There is no more optimism for me that, like, we're heading in a good direction and all of a sudden it's just going to turn around. I think the hardest part as a fan right now, fan perspective, is that the amount of time and the depth of the problem usually is correlated with the kind of change that's going to have to address it. And so walking in on Tuesday morning with a reaction to Monday night doesn't really get at the heart of what's happening here. Like, the coaching staff has been deteriorating for years, and Belichick has been able to keep his sons around and hire buddies. I mean, it's the friends and family plan in New England, in Foxborough. You know, we didn't have a plan for Brady. And so I do agree that there's got to be accountability, but I think we're talking about this year is just going to play out. Like maybe it's 5-11, maybe it's 9-7.
See, I 100% disagree, guys. I think an owner can walk in and say, you're going to fire that guy. He can. He can say, Cam Acort's going.
And then he doesn't have a head coach.
Well,
He's telling you, he doesn't.
Okay, so but Belichick's making $25 million a year. You think he's going to walk away because he's losing his special teams coach?
Yes, because
I don't.
He is Bill Belichick. It needs to be in control of the entire
but they got
situation.
But they also have.
Be careful, Mike. You really think he's going to walk away from that chance to beat Hallis and all those other things?
No.
I don't think
whole kingdom.
No,
because he's losing Cam Acorn.
Mike, he would get hired. One of the other 31 teams would hire him the next day. I'm not worried about him and his record.
No, Belichick's not walking away.
He's not.
It's more that the Crafts. I mean, I'm telling you, even though the brand is taking a hit right now, the Crafts want to be like the Tishes and the Rooneys. They don't want to be like Jerry Jones and Daniel Snyder. I mean, I'm dead. Like Jerry Jones and Daniel Snyder walk in.
He'd have walked in and said, "Fire that dude."
And if we're talking about money brand, there's no better brand in football than the Dallas Cowboys.
That's right.
So literally, and he does it. He's stupid. He does stupid crap all the time.
Oh, there sure is a brand. I would rather be the Pittsburgh Steelers all day than
I'm
Dallas
not saying
Cowboys.
you. I'm talking about from a branding standpoint and money. There's nobody bigger than that.
Jerry's a great marketer. They haven't sniffed a win in 20 years.
I'm not disagreeing with you. We're talking if we're comparing what brand is, and we're talking about
team.
money and America's team, the whole thing. There's no bet. That's the standard. I'm just telling you, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm with you. I'd rather be the Steelers also. Totally.
I think one of the things that has made the Patriots so good over the last 20 years is the fact that the Crafts have left Belichick alone. And every time there's kind of been a teetering somewhere, he's figured it out. So I think that's, to Andrew's point, they're not going to run in the next day and call a meeting and say, okay, coach, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. They haven't done it for 22 years. They're going to let, I'm sure there'll be some conversation behind the scenes between Kraft and Belichick, but he's not been one that's come out in public and said, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to happen. As a matter of fact,
I'll throw you a curveball, though, and this is the thing that has me really nervous, is, and we've stayed high level today, but let's drill into the quarterback controversy that has been completely created by whatever the heck Monday was and whatever was not said the last 2 days.
Right.
I don't know if y'all remember this, but 2 weeks ago, Bill Simmons on his podcast said that he had a source that told him Bob Kraft loved Bailey Zappi and that Bob Kraft thought he was the next coming. And then this thing's happening with Mac, and then you got Patricia and Judd. I think they're all in bed. I mean, I think my worry is
drain the swamp.
The birds have left the nest. I mean, that like literally that they're not having the conversation you want them to have, Mike Davis, because I think they're all in cahoots. I mean, I think they've just
so right.
lost.
Hold on a minute. You're so right.
And then, and then Ben Volin, and I know it was like bad journalism and that somebody was trolling him from Barstool, but like there's enough smoke, and the Mac is hard to deal with. He's not humble. He needs to be humble. Like,
you're so right.
Something is going on here that just is not right.
Andrew, time out. You're so right. So hold on a minute. And I've been guilty of this as a leader of people of an organization before. There's something to the notion of a couple of things: groupthink, confirmation bias, and ease of life. And what I mean by that is, even when you know the organization is not excelling or not performing to what it could be, and you know that there's meat on the bone there, it takes hard work, dedication, all these things we're talking about. It takes uncomfortable conversations. It takes hurting feelings. It takes all these things. But when you look back 22 years and you see the success, and you realize there becomes a natural inclination to be comfortable there, and just to kind of say, hey, what's a way where we can still like maintain some of the stuff and know we're not going to be the bottom barrel, but life can be a little easier, and we don't have to piss people off and have those conversations and put as much into it. And that is a natural thing that happens in any organization. And it's what causes a lot of organizations to function at the highest level they can. And so when you said that, in my brain, a light bulb went off and I went, holy smokes, you're probably right. There's probably a bunch of people sitting in a room that it's a bunch of yes people that are agreeing with everybody. And then you have blinders on to what actually the bad things, or you just don't want to take the time to mess with it because it causes a lot of other negative things. It's the right thing to do, but you don't want to clean out the wound. Just let it continue to fester. Man, that's such a great point. That is such a great point. And it happens to all organizations. That's probably happened on some of your coaching staffs, whether, but it just happens. Like, that's just a normal thing that happens. That's a really interesting point.
But you would hope, keeping it in a football perspective, you would hope that the head coach would have the wherewithal to walk into a meeting like that and say, hey, whoa. We drafted this kid 15 overall. He's our starting quarterback. We're going to go places with him. We're not going anywhere with Doug Flutie. I mean, give the kid number 7 then, because all I saw Monday night was a second coming of Doug Flutie.
I'm happy for you to take that number 7 away from Bailey, by the way. Make it available.
And I'm just like,
yeah, let's move on from him too. We haven't talked about special teams.
No, but you walk into a meeting, you hope Belichick, and I think this has probably been the case for 22 years, and maybe it isn't. Maybe to Andrew's point, he doesn't have the energy he used to have. I don't know, but you'd hope he'd walk into a meeting and say, hey, fellas, I'm still running the show here. So, but that's not the gist. To Andrew's point, that's not the gist I'm getting when I listen to Bedard and I read his stuff. It sounds to me like there's stuff going on behind the scenes in Belichick's ear. I hope not. I think that's disastrous.
Look, maybe he will. And it would be a disaster. I think the reality is they're not. This isn't. Andrew said it for a couple of years now. It's not the same team we're used to seeing. And
I think, and I'd add as a fan podcast, I think a lot of the frustration probably around the fandom is that there isn't any explanation as to what's going on. Of course, we're not owed that. I get it, but the frustration of watching him go into, press conferences and just not answer any questions, and no one knows, and I'm not going to, we'll see how it goes today. We're not owed anything, but it would be nice to hear an explanation of what's going to happen with the starting quarterback, or, those kinds of things. I think that's a frustrating thing.
I think my final word on this from the fan perspective is, and I think this is the biggest thing that happened for me over the last couple of days. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not overreacting to a really bad night of football. I don't think I am. I kept thinking back to Tom Brady's dad's quote a couple years ago. I think it was in the Wickersham article, or it was before Brady had left, even, when he just said, these things always end bad. They get ugly and bad.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was talking about like when Belichick or players ready to go, get rid of a player. I think there's just maybe more ancient wisdom in that quote across the board. And I think we're in that moment for Belichick, probably for Rob Kraft, and for the Patriots this iteration. And I think I just had the moment on Monday where it was like, oh, it might just be time for us to pull the life support on that era.
Mm-hmm.
Go hire a young coach, build with Mac Jones, for God's sake. Maybe Jonathan Kraft takes over, but like, it's only going to get uglier. Like there's no, the next wave of this dynasty is not coming. And I think I just had that moment as a fan that, God, that sucks, because you also don't know what you're going to get. You could get 10 years of terrible football and really bad coaches. But I'm like, it might just be time.
Well, with that in mind,
always ends ugly.
It does. And I also will say this, and I've done this. I've said this to myself many times, and it comes from other fans of other teams that I interact with. You said it earlier, we were lucky to witness the greatest dynasty in NFL history for the last 22 years. And that is an outlier in sports. And we saw it. and we were part of it, and we enjoyed it, and we walked on that pedestal above everybody else for 22 years. And the reality is life is, generally speaking, sports life rather, is cyclical. And we're not in the best part of the cycle. And this is what it feels like to be everybody else. And it didn't feel like this for 22 years for Patriots fans. And now we are. And so I'll be honest with you. When I've had people that aren't Patriots. I was talking to a guy earlier who's a Browns fan, the guy I work with. And he said, yeah, I've actually listened to your podcast. Your podcast is really good. He said, and I revel all the time when y'all talk about how bad you are, because welcome to everyone else. He's like, it's great. He's like, y'all enjoyed it. He said, and that's me. And he even said to me, he goes, that's me being a vindictive Browns fan. He's like, but I'll tell you every time, enjoy it. I'm glad you got to enjoy it, but you're right there with everybody else now. And so that's just the reality. I'm okay with that. Like, I understand it's frustrating, but it is what it is. Like, it's part of life, part of sports.
Look, Marv Levy was there. Now they probably have their coach, right? But Buffalo's moved on. They found their guy. Titans seem to have found their guy. Too bad he was a former Patriot, but they seem to have found their guy. Those guys are out there. You guys talked about Pittsburgh. They certainly found their guy, right? They've built around. So whether we have our guy on the staff, maybe he's coaching linebackers or defensive linemen or whatever, or, there's a young guy out there, or just not even a young guy, whether it's Greg Roman or somebody like that who can come in and rebuild this team. It may very well be that the reason why Belichick didn't go rebuild this whole thing is because he was planning on walking away. That's all I can figure. Maybe it is the end.
Well, I think it's safe to say that a high percentage of dynasties in sports, when the tide turns, it turns sharply. And so this is kind of no surprise, because I don't think 7 or 8 years ago, the Patriot organization is looking down the road and saying, okay, when Brady leaves, we have to have a plan in place, right? Because no one knew when Brady was going to go, right? So in the world of sports, dynasties tend to fade. No, I don't think they fade away; they fall away. And I see that happening in some regard here. I don't think it has to happen. To your point, I think you get another coach, you get a young guy, you build with Mac Jones, and you have the last 2 drafts have been good. I think there are things there to build on, but it's got to take a different direction.
I think my worry is the opposite, though. I mean, I think we may see it in ways that feel sharp, but it's really like the boiling frog experiment thing. Like the frog, if you put a frog in a pot of water and turn the temperature up like 1 degree or 2 degrees every hour or whatever it is, the frog ends up boiling to death because it doesn't realize it's in a deadly situation. I actually think these things die very slow deaths. And this is why leadership is needed so much, whether it's from an owner or from the GM or from the coach, to say like, ooh, these trend lines aren't good. Like, okay, we got to let go of that. It's time to change course. And I don't know where that is coming from, but I don't think we've seen that in a couple years now. And it's just, Monday night was, I think, just an ugly manifestation of a lot of that over time.
I think last thing, and then we got to get into predictions and wrap this up. I think you're exactly right. And I think the reality of the situation is it feels sharp on the outside, to add to your point, Andrew. I do think it's a slow death on the inside. And I think no matter if you make millions of dollars or what you make as a leader in an organization, it's exhausting work to do exactly what you're talking about. And we're human beings for a reason, and we're not invincible. And it is really easy on the outside to say, well, this is what that person should do, and this is how this should be done. And we all do it. We're all humans. But when you're actually in it, having those conversations and putting in work and putting in time and having to build relationships and hurt relationships, that's exhausting work. And so the reality is, I think that's why stuff doesn't sustain. That's why things happen. And that could be a civilization, that could be an organization, that could be a football team. It just, stuff happens. And literally people get exhausted and they stop doing it to the degree they once did. And that's just reality. And I think that's probably happening, which is why you bring in fresh blood into an organization that has more energy and it will get exhausted at some point, but it is not exhausted now.
That's what Mike Davis, you've been saying for a long time now. Like, go hire a coordinator with some experience who's going to speak up in the room and create friction and tension. Like healthy organizations want, contrarian viewpoints because it makes everybody think a little bit more, work a little bit more. And Mike Lakis, to your point, it brings a new lifeblood right to the room, and they haven't done that in a while.
And one of the key things about this organization is they went out and got your Dean Pease. They went out and hired guys who had been successful and who were willing to put their stamp on it. And I think, Matt Patricia was grown up in this organization and Joe Judge grew up in this organization. And there hasn't been an infusion of fresh blood in a long time. And that it is what it is, right? So it's going to be on Jonathan to change that.
Well,
or Belichick.
To Andrew's point, to all y'all point, and I see it now. The slow death happens inside, and it causes the appearance of a sharp drop off on the outside.
Yeah. One little step every day.
Look, guys, here's what I tell you,
and that's what's happening. And I see it happen.
I was going to lead with this hot take when I said it's the worst in that I've seen in 2 decades. It actually is very similar to the Denver Broncos loss in Cam's year 2 years ago. It was the same exact game. We had no business. Drew Lock ran all over the place, threw all over the place. Yep. You're like, what the hell is happening? We couldn't move the ball. And then, don't be fooled. We might even beat the Jets as we turn our attention to the Jets. We might win another game or two. And then you're going to be right back where you were last year and the year before, where you're not building. I mean, it's been happening for years. Mm-hmm. You just see it. There are moments where you see it really clearly.
I gotta hear why you think we're gonna beat these Jets.
We're gonna beat the Jets.
5-2.
Nah, I don't care about the record, man. NFL's week to week. We'll go and predict. I'll start with my prediction. I don't normally do it, but why not? So we're gonna beat the Jets, man. Zach Wilson. What you saw on Monday night is not. To Andrew's point, was bad. It was a disaster. There's small steps, and within small steps of downfalls of organizations, there are steps up and down. This week, you'll see a step up, and what's going to happen there is you're going to have a defense. You're going to have they're going to run a similar game plan to what they ran last week. Zach Wilson, what did he throw? 5 interceptions the first time he played the Patriots. Literally, he's Zach Wilson. Let me be very clear. They're 5-2. He's still not very good. He's not a good quarterback at this time. It'll be a tight game. It'll be a close game. The Patriots will find a way to win. Jets defensively are better, so it's a low-scoring game. You get Mac back. They're going to run some plays. I don't care if it's Bailey or Mac. I don't really give a crap. I'm just telling you, they're going to go into New York. Everyone thinks I see why they're favored. This is one of those conundrums where the public's probably going to go heavy on the Jets, and the Patriots, I think, win by 10 points. Call it 20-10. Patriots win.
Andrew?
Not sure I have a prediction other than to I don't know that I disagree with a lot of what you said, Mike, but when you talk about Zach Wilson not being any good yet, I'm like, Justin Fields just had the best game of his career.
Yeah, Justin Fields is better than Zach Wilson. No Breece Hall either. No Breece Hall, man.
They're similar players. They're similar players.
Oh, no. Not at all.
I don't know. I mean, I think Jets are going to win. I don't I do. I mean, I think Patriots play harder. I think, these are professionals. They've got ego. They've got pride. They probably didn't like being on the field and how it played out on Monday. It sounds like there's guys who have Max back. I thought Jacoby Myers' comments on Monday night were refreshing, to be honest. It's clear that he's a supporter of his teammates and his captain. I'd imagine you get a bounce back effort from them, wanting to make up for that. I do think the Jets are way better than we've seen them in years. I watched a little bit of their game last week. I mean, I think a closer game, but I think we'll probably lose by a field goal. Maybe something like 24-21.
Okay. Mike, whoever wants to go for it.
I'll go. So look, I've paid more attention to the Jets than I usually ever want to. And what I will say is that I think they've done a really good job of improving an offensive line, which looked like a disaster at the beginning of the season when Mekhi Becton went down. And I think they've done a much better job of improving their defensive line. So I think that they're going to be strong in the trenches. And I think that especially in a Belichick game, when you lose the trenches, you lose the game. And so I cannot conceive of a way that this team that played Monday night can win that game. I will say I think it's going to be a battle of kickers, although you're going to see some of those breaks where, you know, they wash away your linebacker and a guy just gets loose. So I think the Jets probably will score a touchdown. There might be a defensive touchdown, but I think they're going to lose by 3. And I think there'll probably be 4 or 5 field goals in this game.
There you go.
So I'll say 21-17.
Okay. Dad, take us home.
I think, to Mike's point of the offensive and defensive line in the trenches, and with the center not playing for Patriots this week, that's a big minus. Andrews hurts, especially with Matt hopefully coming back and playing the whole game. But anyway, the history of Belichick is that they play well. They play better this week. The Jets are better. I'm gonna tell you that I think the Patriots win the game, 21-17.
Yep. And to be fair, and we'll just say bye.
Not that they're gonna do it the next week, but
no. To be fair, we'll say bye here. But everything I just gave you guys was complete narrative, and everything Andrew and Mike said was complete factual information. Centers out. Patriots probably lose, but I'm just going to stick with my prediction. By
the way, as a bettor, I wouldn't go anywhere near this game.
No,
I'm not touching this thing.
All
right, guys. Hey, it was fun.
Yeah, man.
We'll do it again next week, and we'll keep coming back. Man,
hey, guys, I really do appreciate y'all. Seriously, it's great to get the chance to talk to y'all, and I certainly encourage everybody out there. Please feel free to join us. We'd love to have an injection of new blood. As we were talking about.
That's I like it. There you go.
And get on Boston Sports Journal and subscribe, and you'll be smart.
Right.
So right, I'm sure Mike just put that how to reach us down there on the bottom just now.
Shoot us a note. All right,
Great
boys.
job, guys.
Enjoy the games.